This is California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. We are coming to you from the state's capital, Sacramento, California. Our guest today is Steve Bradford. He is a member of the California State Assembly. And sir, the California State Assembly and Senate has passed a budget. The governor signed it by deadline, fourth time in a row. Is that right?
That's correct.
How'd you do that?
Working hard. I mean, the state's in great position as it relates to finances with the passage of the propositions 2 years ago.
Right.
So
Prop 30.
Prop 30.
Of course.
We have money. We've kind of like cut our expenditures, so to speak, and gotten our finances in line. So
let's talk about the money that's come in. Obviously, more money's coming in because of an improving economy, Proposition 30, other items like that. But the governor and your colleagues in the Republican caucus, as well as your colleagues as well in the Democratic caucus, have been concerned about deficits, and they've wanted to pass what's known as a rainy day fund. We've had them in the past, rainy day funds. They're looking to pass one that will be functional as opposed to dysfunctional, going to the voters in the fall. What's your sense of it?
I mean, it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, educate the public and understanding the benefits of it. It makes common sense. I mean, a rainy day fund, we have them at our homes and we have them in our businesses, so to speak. So it's common sense, it's fiscal, reasonable and responsible for us as legislators to want to do that.
But here's what's hard, I would think. The voters passed a rainy day initiative in '79 and then they took it back. In 2004, they passed an initiative, Prop 58. Didn't work. 2009 went to the voters. The voters said no. The whole package went down. So there just hasn't been a lot of success with rainy day funds. What's the message this time? Why this one?
I think we've streamlined the ask of the public, and I think we've shown through our good fiscal stewardship over the last 2 to 3 years that I think California's ready. I think it's a more trusting populace right now of the legislature. So I'm hoping if we get out and we message it right, the voters will support it.
Are there protections within the proposed rainy day fund so that the money won't be siphoned off at the mere glimmer of a downturn? So when there is a bona fide downturn, the money's there.
We're hoping, and those are the contingents, and those are some of the safety nets that my colleagues are asking for on both sides of the house to make sure that those protections are real, so when the money is truly needed, not on some whimsical decision that we go and spend this money. So.
What about long-term debt? Are we using some of this surplus not just toward the rainy day fund, but to pay off long-term debt, to pay down pension obligations?
We are, and now it's part of the debate. We could spend a little bit more, use a little bit more in that regard. We would like to take care of some of that long-term debt immediately, so it kind of like frees you up for the future. But that was much of the debate back and forth of both houses of how much of this should we spend, and I think the legislature would have liked to pay down a little bit more of the debt.
So where are we today? Is about half-half, as I understand it?
Yeah.
So in the final analysis, are the voters in your mind ready to buy in? You would think California would jump on a rainy day bandwagon. It feels very Californian, but if they went down in 2009, I'm just wondering, are the voters ready?
I don't have that crystal ball, but I think it's going to be a messaging issue. I think it's going to be all about how we message it, how we package it to the voters, and make sure that they're educated and understand what's all there.
At the same time, it's somewhat likely there will be a water bond on the ballot for, $10 billion, we don't know yet. So you have the water bond on the one hand, let us spend all this money. On the other hand, let us save all this money. Conflicting message?
I think so, and we've had a lot of discussion about the water bond. I mean, we saw what happened in '09, and there's been various attempts. So
when we come back, let's talk more about the budget, the pluses, the negatives. My name is Brad Pomerance. For our viewers on HLN, thanks for joining us. For other viewers, we'll be right back. So, sir, let's talk more about the specifics of the budget. It's undeniable that for advocates of K-12 education, that it was a good year. Increases in school funding by 10%, that's a lot. I mean, that's a huge spike. Fair to favor K-12 as much as it's being favored?
I think that's where the base is. I mean, when you talk about creating the foundation for education, it's going to happen through K through 12. We have looked at CSUs and our UC, our higher ed, there's been an additional $200 million put there. But we think local control funding, we're concerned that with the additional money, and we say the 10% increase, again, there was tremendous cuts. So this 10% is just really a restoral of much of what we cut over the last 6 years.
But yet K-12 is getting restored at a much faster rate than community college, than CSU, than UC. You know, just to play it out, why should K-12 get restored so quickly and the higher ed not?
Again, I think we believe that's the foundation. Data has shown if kids are not reading by grade level by third grade, they're going to fall out of the system more or less. They're going to have a higher rate of dropout rate. So I think focusing the money on K-12 should be the priority. But at the same time, making sure we have access to higher education, having the classroom spaces available, both in our community college and our CSU and UC systems, is a priority as well.
I want to speak with you. We did recently, but I want to revisit this issue because I think it's an important one. And it's the issue of those students being admitted to the UC system. You are the chair of the caucus that's known as the Men and Boys of Color.
Boys and Men of Color.
Boys and Men of Color, BMOC. But if you look on UC campuses, if you're focused on African American boys and men of color, we're not going to see a lot of BMOCs that are black.
Unless they're athletes.
Unless they're athletes. For the class coming in this fall, the numbers of African American students at the entire UC system is 4.2%. In a population in California with 11, 12%?
About 12% African American.
That is, one could argue, troubling.
It is, very much so.
Yeah. So putting the affirmative action conversation aside, what's happening? Why is this happening?
It's a variety of issues that are happening. Again, going back to K through 12, the dropout rate for African American and Latino students are much higher, especially in the male population.
But yet, if I may interrupt, with Latino students, those numbers are climbing. And in fact, this year will be the first year that Latinos will outpace Anglos in the freshman UC class. The Latino numbers are they're approaching par with their population statistics. It's just not happening with African Americans.
And part of the money was, in the budget, was for some outreach. We said, hey, we have to go out and reach these students and make sure they're aware of college. What we're seeing, too, in the African American community, a lot of them are choosing HBCUs, historically black colleges. We're finding
Which
more.
are terrific.
Exactly.
I mean, Howard,
Morehouse.
Right.
We're seeing a lot of that. But, yeah, and they're finding their way more so in our community college system. So that's their gateway or the portal to higher education for most of them.
What I've read, and anecdotes don't make data. The plural of anecdotes don't make data. But I have read some articles where what we're getting is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that African Americans just are not interested in the UC system. There's just, why would I apply there? I would hope we're at a day where it doesn't matter, but at a certain level, I look around and see anyone that looks like me, I don't want to go here.
True enough, and when you read about situations at UC San Diego, the Compton Cookout.
We talked about that, that was bad.
Yeah, and when you talk about what happened at San Jose State, I mean, that is not attracting folks to our UCs or CSUs. So young folks are smart. I mean, we just looked at some data of college admissions a couple of weeks ago, and the young ladies were grappling. Should I go to UCLA or should I go to Ivy League schools? So, I mean, they're making a greater effort, I think, at recruiting some of these people of color than our UC and our CSU system.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, the UC system cannot affirmatively recruit based upon racial characteristics. But what can be done about the statistics that are flat? It's not as if African American numbers are dropping, but they're flat, whereas Latino numbers rising. Asian American numbers actually dropping a bit, but still high.
I still think it's about getting into these schools early, touching these students and the high school level, making sure that they're aware that, there are support systems, there's financial aid, all those things which are going to be necessary.
He is Steve Bradford, member of the California State Assembly. I'm Brad Pomerance, coming to you from Sacramento on California Edition.